having looked at the squad, a few more round pegs in round holes. Is that the order of this week?
Yeah, definitely. Good to have some bodies back. Obviously, we touched on the issues that we had last week, leading into obviously that cup game. We also had an eye on obviously what was needed to be done with regard to this game and the short turnaround. So yeah, looking forward to obviously having some senior blokes back, and hopefully they'll give us some direction and help us to get in a good performance.
How's the lurgy at the moment?
Yeah, okay. We've only got one off, which is one of the young lads I call Bailey Dawson. He's still feeling some effects of obviously a little bit of illness. So obviously he's at home at the minute, but everyone else, the team was all good. George Griffin's still got a little bit of a cough and a splutter, but we're all okay really.
Have you got to the bottom of where it actually came from? I think there's a couple of clubs that have got similar issues.
Yeah, I just think it's flying around, isn't it? There's parents doing school runs and picking up kids, and the kids have all got it, and then you try and control your environment, but you can't control the home environment. So do the best you can. It's just one of those things. Every season there's cases of this at clubs, and unfortunately we've obviously had ours just recently, and hopefully it'll be the last one.
Are you able to give us an update, stroke prognosis on some of the guys not involved? Greg Eden, what's the situation with him at the moment? How far away is he?
Yeah, Greg's a couple of weeks still away, just coming back from some hamstring neural pain. So doing a little bit of work on him, and that's tracked down obviously into a little bit of a calf issue. So we just have to box really, really clever with Greg. He's a high performance athlete, and need to make sure that we make sure he's 100% right, before we consider him again for selection. We're hoping it'll be a couple of weeks' time.
Did you get a more exact prognosis on Niles Evans?
Yeah, Niles, unfortunately, requires surgery on that pectoral tear. So he's going to miss the majority of the season, potentially the season for us. So, it's not good news for now.
How big a blow is that more broadly for the team?
Yeah, it's a huge blow. Beginning of the year, you look and you go, if we can get, Niles Evans, England international, very, very good player in Super League on the field at fullback, and had that experience of Miller and Vete alongside him with West Ham at 13 and McShane. You've got a really competitive span, but I think they've been on the field together maybe once or twice in games. So, we've had to, do it tough in that position. I think the teams that tend to be at the top of the table, they have that continuity and consistency in those key positions. Unfortunate for us, we're just, doing a little bit tough, and we've had some, difficult selection issues in those key span positions. So, unfortunately for Niall, he's, played a small part this season. We was expecting obviously him to play a greater significant role, but he's unfortunately picked up a couple of nasty injuries, and this one's obviously one which requires surgery.
So if you're going to have to fill that role potentially for the rest of the season, what sort of options do you have in that department?
Yeah, you've got the luxury of potentially putting Gareth Widdop back there and giving him an opportunity at six. At fullback, and then moving Brody into the halfback position, which he's excelled in a couple of games that he's played there. Catalan away was in that halfback position. He was in the halfback position against Hull KR at home, so he's accustomed to that. It gets him close to the ball and allows him to run. And Gaz has got a great experience from his time in the NRL and time internationally. And just recently, he spent a bit of time at fullback for Warrington and probably played his best rugby there. So there's an option there. Will Tate's obviously also played fullback as a junior. So look, there are some options. We've got to make sure that we pick the right one, which suits us, depending on the team that we're playing against and dependent on which players we've got available to us.
To that end, just Adam Milner and Albert Vete.
Yeah. Albert Vete is a calf. History's obviously repeated itself from his time at Hull KR. So he picked up a bit of a calf maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. No, 5 or 6 weeks ago now. Got him back to something like thought, we was okay. did in some return to running session, felt his calf tighten up again. So, we've had to go back to the drawing board. We've had it re-scanned. He's got a little bit of a strain, obviously, in that calf. So we've got to box clever with, obviously, Albert in terms of his load and, running, etc.
And Ads
Milner, he's potentially, on the move, which obviously has been spoken about in the press. That hasn't been finalised with regards to the paperwork, so that's why he's not playing for us at the weekend.
So that potential move that's been discussed, possibly Huddersfield, that's with immediate effect.
Yes, that's potential immediate effect. Just got to dot the I's and cross the T's, make sure that it's satisfactory for both clubs.
Given his history at Cass, will you be sad to see him go?
Yeah, definitely. What was it, 3 weeks ago? He made 300 games for, obviously, Catford Tigers against Lee. I think he's sat on 301 now. Being a great servant to the club. A player who's represented the club with great respect and distinction and played with great desire. But made a decision that he felt was in his best interest. As opportunity for him at Huddersfield, not only for this year, for next year, which we weren't in a position to guarantee him for next year. So didn't want to stand in his way. And wish him all the best. Hopefully that gets all finalised and we can say our goodbyes.
And when those T's are crossed and I's are dotted, does that give you the chance to bring players in, or do you feel you can fill that from within?
The position which I'd played, we're able to fill it from within, but we are actually, looking into the market to try and bring somebody in between now and the end of the season. But it's a tough market, as we're all aware of. If a player becomes available, which we think can help improve us, then we'll look to strike. But at the moment, it's that viewing and seeing what's out there. Don't want to just make signings for the sake of making signings.
This Friday's game, then, I don't think anyone would have expected it to be a bottom three clash at this stage of the season. How surprised are you that Huddersfield are in that position?
Yeah, surprised. I'm surprised we are as well. When the season started, you looked at the decisions that had been made from a recruitment point of view. When you looked at the squads, you definitely thought these was going to be higher up the ladder than we currently are. So it's a strange one. Ian Watson's, coach of respect. The teams that he's coached have always been very, very difficult to play against. They've made a lot of, obviously, additions to their squad this year, and sometimes that can be challenging for you as a coach, be trying to keep, the players happy and also making sure that you get the right chemistry within your team. So he's an experienced coach. I know that he'll work through it, and they'll definitely start picking up some wins because they've got too much quality within their squad not to. So we're expecting the best version of Huddersfield on the weekend, and with the quality that they've got in the team, we'll need to make sure that we're performing exceptionally well defensively and hope that we're able to fire some questions and show some of their vulnerabilities from a defensive point of view.
I know it's a bit of a cliche, but do you see it as a bit of a 4-pointer given where the two sides are at this point in time?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a cliche. Every game's important, and a win for us is vitally important. And we're hoping, if we can concentrate on performance, make sure that we take care of the things that we're in control of, which is how we've applied ourselves this week to our training, and then making sure that we attack the game with real positivity and some energy and an intent in what we do. Play the process game, make sure that you complete some sets and look to try and dominate field position, because you have to do that against Huddersfield, because that's what they're very good at. And then once you get into them good ball field positions, execute and take the chances which will come. There may be only 3 or 4, but what we've been guilty of is the 3 or 4 chances that we have created, we haven't been converting them, and we haven't been able to apply that scoreboard pressure, which is vitally important. And that's something we've touched on this week, and hopefully we'll put in a good showing on Friday night.
Just finally for me, Andy, what it wasn't obviously a great home turnout last week. What would you say to Cass fans that at this point in time, maybe whether it's a protest or not, are actively not going to games?
I couldn't understand the reasons. The form hasn't been great, and aspects of our performances have been poor on the eye. Cass have always had a really, really good history of playing a real expansive brand. I think what's important for us as a group is we can't get distracted by that. We've got to just make sure that we continue to work hard, trust in the process, believe in each other, come up with energy on a training day, and hope we start to get some wins and hope we start to get some performances which encourage the Castleford supporters, to come back and support the team. There are a large nucleus of the fans who are fully supportive and understand, the transition that we're going through as a club, and they've continued to turn up and they've showed their appreciation after games, and I'm sure there'll be a reasonable following, go to Huddersfield, and they're the real, diehards of the club and will support through thick and thin, and we desperately need those guys, to support us. We're hating. Nobody's hating more than the playing group and the coaching staff. I know the fans are hating, and we're hating as well. We just want to go out there and give the best performance that we can and show the best version of ourselves. And hopefully that'll be enough to get the supporters appreciative of the efforts that we've put in. And hopefully we'll start to get some wins, and, they'll start, getting behind us again in terms of the numbers down at the Jungle.
Yeah, just on the overall situation, did you expect some short-term pain when you took over?
Yeah, 100% expected a little bit of short-term pain. At the moment, obviously I'm having to cop some criticism and wear some bruises and take a little bit of flack, and I totally understand that. That's what comes with being a head coach of a club which is struggling. But as a leader, you have to be strong enough to cop that criticism, attack that criticism head on, and try and flip the negative into a positive. And I think what's important is, know that the group are, working hard. We're still together. We're a little bit low on confidence. We understand that. But all it takes, one performance or a couple of moments within a game, to flip around the whole season. And we're hoping that comes on Friday night against Huddersfield. And we get a good performance, get a win, and then it's on to the magic weekend against Leeds.
You've got a lot of players off contract, obviously, and the squad's almost in an in-between phase. Is that making it more challenging in the short term?
Yeah, it is. It's challenging in the short term. That uncertainty is difficult for the players. It's difficult for us as an organisation. It's difficult for me as a head coach. There's still some uncertainty with regards to players within our group, and that they deserve to remain at the club. But that's all performance dependent. And I think the big thing which I've tried to strive in terms of my message to the players is performance is king. You take care of performance. Things like contracts, whether it be at Castleford or whether it be somewhere else, will take care of themselves. So the players' focus, our focus is performing well at the weekend. Take care of your performance, and everything else will come on the back of performing well.
Realistically, how long do you think it'll take the club to get back to competing at the top end of Super League?
I'd like to think that, this season's not a complete write-off. You only need a couple of wins and you're straight back into it. I've referenced Hull FC before. They was down in the dumps. They'd lost 7 on the bounce. They've been beaten at home to Hull KR by 40 points. But they've managed to, galvanise the group. They snagged the win against Huddersfield, who were probably at their best on that day. That gave the team confidence, and then they picked off Wigan, and then they picked off Wakefield, and they picked off us last week, and all of a sudden things are looking a lot more positive on the back of those 4 wins. So it's easily turned around. From a results point of view, what we've got to do is just go after these games and, use these games as a real opportunity to get those 2 points and get that momentum going.
Yeah, you're obviously in the early stages of a rebuild there. You've been at the club 18 months or so now. What are the biggest changes that need to be made?
The biggest changes that need to be made, I think a big one is, just having a clear vision for where we want the club to be. And that's getting the youth system right, getting some local lads wanting to play for Castleford Tigers. The academy licence that we got a couple of months back is a huge moment for us as a club. There's been some real positive work going on behind the scenes with the youth. That's still not come to fruition with regards to results in the academy and scholarship with regards to players. But that's a long process. That's 3 or 4 years down the track. And then while that work's going on behind the scenes with the youth, just, being smart in the recruitment and making sure that we get the right people on board in terms of character, in terms of age profile, in terms of ability and desire. I think that's a real big one. Getting some players who are at the right age and have got a real desire, you know, to improve as individuals, but also help the team improve. And you know, retention is an important area that we need to make sure that we get right. And then once you know you start to pick off some results and get some positive performances on the field, you know, it makes you a more attractive proposition for other players to come and join. So, yeah, it's a process, and you know we're working our way through that process. And there are rough waters which we're in at the moment, but I know what a good team looks like. I know what high performance looks like. You know, I've got 23 years coaching experience. Worked with some unbelievable coaches and some unbelievable players, and you know I know that we'll be able to get through this moment, and the tough times, you know, make the good times even better.
Just like a few words on, you know, Daniel Smith's exit. How did that come about?
Yeah, Dan obviously played a couple of games early in the season, then found himself out the team, then came back into the team. Gave him a couple of opportunities, you know, to showcase what he could provide for us. You know, his form and confidence was a little bit low at the beginning of the season. Wasn't able to quite get that confidence back. So we had a chat, and Featherstone asked if they could take him on loan for a couple of weeks. We felt that was good for Dan to try and get some game time rather than, you know, playing in a hit and miss, obviously reserves competition and being sent out on Joe Reds, you know, to Halifax or playing for the Midlands. We thought, you know, playing for Featherstone to get, you know, some valuable game time at a good level, you know, was good for him. He really obviously enjoyed, you know, the couple of weeks there. And in terms of us moving forward, you know, we feel as though we've got some guys within the squad, you know, the likes of Samuel and Louise Mustafa wanted to create a bit of a pathway. So we made the decision, you know, to allow obviously Dan to pursue an opportunity, which also meant his future was secured for next year. And we were in a position to, you know, offer him a deal for next year at this moment in time. So, you know, it worked for obviously Daniel and it worked for us as a club.